My name is Emily Carter. I'm 33. When I was 8 years old, my parents chose my brother's birthday party over taking me to the hospital. They told everyone it was bad timing. What it really was a decision. And years later, when they needed me to fix things, that decision came back with paperwork attached. I still remember the smell of frosting that day, vanilla and cheap food coloring. The kitchen was loud, balloons scraping the ceiling fan, kids yelling in the backyard. I was sitting on the bottom step by the back door, my knee pulled up, my hands shaking because I couldn't get them to stop. I had fallen off my bike earlier, not a dramatic fall, just fast enough, just wrong enough. My leg wouldn't straighten. Every time I tried, my vision went white around the edges. I told my mom first. She was carrying a tray of cupcakes, pink icing smeared on her wrist. She said, "Honey, not right now. We have people here." I told my dad next. He was taping streamers to the fence. He said, "Can it wait an hour? Jason's cake is about to come out." They both said my name the same way. Soft, distracted, like I was interrupting. They gave me an ice pack wrapped in a dish towel. Someone put a folding chair next to me. I didn't go to the hospital that day. I learned early how to be still, how to fold pain inward, how to not ask twice. That was the normal before the crack, me adjusting, them moving on. Now, decades later, I was standing in my kitchen, holding my phone against my shoulder while the kettle screamed itself empty on the stove. The screen showed my mother's name. I almost let it go to voicemail. I didn't. She didn't ask how I was. She went straight into it. "Emily, we need your help." Her voice had that careful tone, the one she used when something was already decided and she just needed me to agree. I turned off the stove. The kettle kept ticking as it cooled. She said there were bills, medical ones, insurance issues. "Your father's coverage changed. It's all very confusing. We don't understand the paperwork. You're good at this stuff." I am good at this stuff. That's not an accident. I work as a healthcare compliance analyst. I spend my days reading denial codes, cross-checking dates, tracking how small delays turn into big numbers. I know exactly how systems fail people. I also know how people use that failure to dodge responsibility. My mom kept talking. She mentioned a payment plan, a bank appointment, maybe a loan, just temporarily, until things settle. She said, "Family helps family." I looked at the kitchen counter. There was a slim folder there, pale blue, the corner bent. I hadn't planned to pull it out today. I hadn't even planned to open it again, but it was already there, because I'd moved it from my work bag the night before and forgotten to put it away. Inside were copies of hospital statements and insurance letters, printed, ordinary, the kind of paper people think disappears if you don't look at it long enough. I said, "What bills?" There was a pause, not a long one, just long enough to feel practiced. She said, "Oh, your father's tests, the follow-ups, it all adds up." I asked for the amounts. She waved them off verbally. It wasn't about the numbers yet. It was about positioning. She said, "We raised you. We did our best." Quinternal said. That phrase landed wrong. It always does. After we hung up, I sat at the table and opened the folder. The paper smelled faintly like toner and dust. The first statement was from an urgent care clinic. Not my parents. Mine. My name, my childhood address, a date from years ago. The visit code matched a knee injury. The notes were brief. Patient presented. No imaging authorized. Discharged. I remembered that night. The way my leg locked. The way my mom told me to sleep it off. The way my dad said kids bounce back. They never followed up. I ran my finger down the page, past the numbers, past the insurance section. There it was. Responsibility shifted. Unpaid balance carried forward. Eventually absorbed. Eventually resurfaced in a different system. I hadn't known any of this as a kid. I only found it years later, during a routine audit at work, when a familiar address caught my eye, and I requested copies out of habit more than suspicion. That habit turned into a folder. My phone buzzed again. This time it was my dad. He didn't waste time. He said, Your mother told you. We're in a tight spot. Jason can't help right now. Jason. My older brother. The party kid. The one whose candles mattered more than my leg. I asked my dad why Jason couldn't help. He sighed. Loudly. Like the question itself was unfair. He said, "You know how he is." I did know. I always knew. I looked back at the folder, at the neat alignment of pages, at how calm it all looked, laid out like that. No raised voices, no excuses, just ink and dates. I told my dad I'd look into things. He said, "Good. I knew you would." After the call, I didn't move for a long time. The house was quiet except for the refrigerator clicking on and off. I could feel my knee ache, the old injury flaring when the weather shifted, like it always does. I wasn't 8 anymore. I wasn't on the steps with a dish towel and an ice pack, and I wasn't going to pretend this was bad timing. Then, my phone lit up with a calendar invite titled, "Bank Appointment." The bank appointment sat on my calendar for 3 days before I touched it. Every time I opened my phone, it stared back at me. Neutral font, neutral location, as if it wasn't asking me to step back into a role I'd been playing since I was 8. I finally clicked it open while sitting in my car after work. Engine off, seatbelt still tight across my chest. The location was a branch near my parents' house. Of course it was. Familiar ground, their territory. I didn't confirm. I didn't decline. I just stared until the screen dimmed. That night, I pulled the pale blue folder back out. I spread the papers across my kitchen table, lining them up the way I do at work. Chronological. No drama. Just sequence. Urgent care visit. Insurance denial. Balance transfer. Internal note. Another system. Another year. What stopped me wasn't the amount. It was the name field. Mine. Not my parents as guarantors. Not a household account. Me. I sat back in the chair and let that settle. The chair creaked under my weight. I'd had it since grad school. One of those things you keep longer than you should because it still works. I called the number on the statement. Not because I expected answers. Because I needed to hear how it sounded out loud. After the automated menu and a stretch of hold music that looped too cheerfully, a woman picked up. Her voice was flat but kind. I gave her the account number. She asked me to verify my address, an old one. I verified it anyway. She explained the history like it was nothing special. Visit, denial, no follow-up authorization. Balance rolled, eventually written off internally but flagged. I asked why I was listed as responsible. She paused. I could hear typing. She said, "It looks like no guardian signature was finalized after the visit." I pressed my lips together. I asked what that meant. She said, "It means the patient became the default party." The patient, 8 years old, default. I thanked her and hung up. My hand was steady, which surprised me. The next day, my mother called again. This time she sounded lighter, relieved, like she'd already counted my yes. She said, "So we made an appointment at the bank. They said if you come with us, it'll go smoother." I asked why I needed to be there. She said, "You understand these things better. And your credit is so good." There it was, said plainly. No embarrassment, no pause. I told her I needed more information. She said, "Emily, we don't have time for this. The bills are due." I asked her if she remembered the bike accident. She laughed, a short, surprised sound. She said, "Oh my God. That. You were fine." I didn't argue. I didn't correct her. I just let the silence stretch. She filled it quickly. She said, "We did what we could. It was Jason's birthday." Aminer. After the call, I emailed a former coworker I still trusted. Tom. He works hospital billing now. I kept it vague. Asked about record access. Asked about childhood accounts. He wrote back an hour later. Brief. Professional. He said I could request full documentation. Notes. Signatures. Everything. It would take a few days. I sent the request that night. When my dad called, I didn't answer. He left a voicemail instead. His voice was tight. He said, "Your mother is upset." We need to know if you're coming to the bank. Jason can't take off work. You're the only option. The only option. Again. I replayed the message while standing at the sink, water running over a single plate I hadn't needed to wash yet. The sound filled the room so I didn't have to hear my own breathing. That evening, I drove past my parents' house without stopping. The driveway was full, Jason's truck, lights on, laughter through an open window. Nothing urgent there. The records came in 2 days later. A thick envelope, my name typed cleanly on the front. I opened it at the table. Same place, same chair. Inside were photocopies of handwritten notes, a signature line left blank, a checkbox marked deferred. I could see the moment where someone decided not to decide. I stacked the papers neatly and slid them into the folder. It was heavier now. Not physically, just enough to feel different when I lifted it. My phone buzzed while I was doing that. A text from my mother. She wrote, "The bank moved the appointment up. Tomorrow morning. No question mark." I typed back slowly. I wrote, "I need to review some documents first." 3 dots appeared immediately, then disappeared, then appeared again. She wrote, "Emily, don't do this. We're family." I didn't reply. Instead, I added a new event to my calendar. Dinner. Same restaurant we always used for birthdays. Neutral, public, familiar. I knew if I waited for the bank, the story would already be written. Papers signed. Responsibility shifted quietly. I wasn't doing this quietly anymore. That night, I put the folder in my work bag, right next to my laptop. Same zipper, same weight distribution. I checked the address for the restaurant. I already knew it, but I checked anyway. My phone buzzed once more before I went to sleep. A message from Jason. He wrote, "Heard you're making this harder than it needs to be." It said minimally. I stared at the screen until it went dark. Then I set an alarm for earlier than usual. The morning of the dinner, my knee hurt before I even got out of bed. That always happens when the weather shifts. A low ache that starts behind the joint and spreads downward, like something remembering for me. I stood there for a second, weight on my good leg, hand on the dresser, waiting for it to settle. It didn't. I showered anyway. The tile was cold. I shaved my legs out of habit and nicked myself near the ankle. A thin line of red bloomed and then stopped. Small things always felt louder on days like that. I dressed simply. Dark jeans. A sweater I could push the sleeves up on if I needed to. I didn't want anything fussy. Nothing that would make me look like I was trying. The folder stayed in my bag. I checked twice. Zipper closed, corner still bent. On the drive over, I replayed the bike accident without meaning to. The way the handlebars twisted. The sound of the fall. Not dramatic, just wrong. The worst part wasn't the pain. It was sitting there afterward, watching adults decide I could wait. I pulled into the restaurant parking lot 10 minutes early. Habit again. I sat in the car and watched people go in. Couples, families. A server stepped outside to smoke, phone pressed to her ear, laughing. I wondered how many decisions like mine were happening inside. Quiet ones. The kind no one marks as important until later. Inside, the hostess recognized me. She smiled and said my parents were already seated. Back room, same as always. When I walked in, my mother stood up too quickly and knocked her chair back. She hugged me hard, like she needed witnesses to see it. "You look tired," she said into my hair. My father nodded from his seat. Jason was already there, scrolling on his phone, one arm slung over the back of his chair. He didn't look up. We ordered drinks, water for me, wine for my parents, beer for Jason. Small talk filled the space while menus stayed open too long. Traffic, work, someone's neighbor remodeling their kitchen. My mother laughed at something my father said and touched his arm. It looked practiced. Jason finally glanced at me. "So," he said, dragging the word out, "what's the plan here?" I asked him what he meant. He shrugged. "Mom says you're digging up old stuff." My mother cut in fast. "Emily just likes to be thorough," she said. "You know how she is." I did know how I was. I was the one who read things, who remembered, who kept copies. The server came back. We ordered. As she walked away, my father leaned forward slightly. "About the bank," he said. "We really need to resolve that." I rested my hands on the table. My knee was tucked under the chair, bent at a careful angle. "I didn't agree to go," I said. My mother blinked. "We assumed," Jason laughed. "Of course you did." My father sighed, like I'd already disappointed him. "We're not asking for much," he said. "Just support." Support. Another soft word. I reached into my bag and pulled out the folder. I didn't open it yet. I just set it on the table between us. The pale blue looked almost out of place against the dark wood. "What's that?" my mother asked. "Records," I said. Jason rolled his eyes. "Seriously?" I opened the folder slowly. The paper slid softly against itself. I laid the first page flat. My name was right there, bold enough to see from where Jason sat. "This is from an urgent care visit," I said. "When I was 8. My mother's smile froze. My father leaned back. "Oh my God," my mother said lightly. "That old thing." Jason snorted. I kept my voice even. "It surprised me how easy that was." "It shows I was brought in for a knee injury," I said. "No imaging authorized." "Discharged." My father waved a hand. "We didn't think it was serious." "I couldn't walk," I said. There was a pause, the kind that doesn't get filled right away. My mother reached out and touched the edge of the paper. Her fingers hesitated, then pulled back. "We did what we could," she said. "It was Jason's birthday." There it was again, as if that explained the math. I slid the next page forward. The insurance denial letter. "This says the visit was denied because there was no follow-up authorization," I said. "It also says responsibility defaulted." Jason leaned forward now. His beer sloshed slightly. "You're acting like they did this on purpose," he said. "I'm acting like it happened," I said. My father frowned at the page. His jaw tightened. "That's not how it works," he said. "We had coverage." "It is how it worked," I said. "I called. I confirmed." My mother shook her head. "Why are you doing this now?" The server appeared with our food. Plates landed. Steam rose. The interruption felt jarring. Jason took a bite immediately. My parents didn't touch theirs. "I'm doing this now," I said, "because you asked me to help with medical bills." My father's eyes flicked to the other tables, then back to me. "Lower your voice," he said. I hadn't raised it. "This paperwork," I continued, "lists me as the responsible party, not you." My mother's face drained slightly. I slid the page closer to her. She stared at it. I watched her eyes track the lines. She swallowed. "I don't remember signing that," she said. "You didn't," I said. "That's the problem." Jason pushed his chair back an inch. "This is insane." My father straightened. "Emily, enough." The word landed heavy. I closed the folder gently and rested my hand on top of it. "I won't be going to the bank," I said. My mother's eyes filled instantly. Fast. Like she'd practiced. "So, you're just going to abandon us?" she asked. I looked around the room. Other diners. Conversations overlapping. The hum of the place. "No," I said. "I'm just not fixing this." Jason stood up abruptly, chair scraping. "This is unbelievable," he said. "You always do this. Make everything about you." He walked out without looking back. My father stared at the closed door, then at me. "You're tearing this family apart," he said. I didn't answer. The server came by to ask if everything was okay. Her eyes flicked to the untouched plates. "We're fine," my mother said quickly. I picked up my bag. The folder was back inside, secure. As I stood, my knee protested sharply. I leaned on the table for half a second, then straightened. I paid my share at the register on the way out. Habit again. When I reached my car, my phone buzzed. A new voicemail notification. From my father. I listened to my father's voicemail in the car with the engine still off. His voice was clipped, controlled, like he was choosing each word from a short list. "Emily," he said. You embarrassed your mother. This was not the time or the place. We need to talk. I deleted it without replying. The drive home felt longer than it was. Every red light caught me mid-thought. At one, my knee throbbed hard enough that I shifted in the seat and muttered out loud, "Alone, like that might help." When I got home, I set my bag on the chair by the door and didn't unpack it. The folder stayed inside. I knew if I took it out, I'd start reorganizing again. I didn't need to tonight. My phone buzzed before I even took my shoes off. Jason. He didn't bother with hello. "What the hell was that?" he said. "You blindsided them." "I didn't," I said. "I answered a question they asked." "You brought paperwork to dinner," he snapped. "You made Mom cry." Aided. I leaned against the counter and closed my eyes. "She cried when I was 8 too," I said. "Just not about me." There was a pause. Short. Dismissive. "That's not fair," he said. "You don't know what was going on back then." "I know what happened to my leg," I said. He exhaled sharply. "You always exaggerate." The word landed familiar. Old. "I'm not going to the bank," I said again. "And I'm not paying anything." Jason laughed. It wasn't amused. "So you're just cutting them off," he said. "Nice. Guess I'm the bad guy again." "You're not the one they asked," I said. "Because you're the responsible one," he shot back. "You like that. Don't pretend you don't." I thought about that. About all the times I'd stepped in, forms filled out, calls made, things smoothed over quietly so no one had to feel uncomfortable. "I don't like it," I said. "I'm just done with it." He swore under his breath and hung up. That night, I didn't sleep much. I kept waking with the sense that I'd missed something. A step. A detail. Like a file left open. In the morning, my inbox was full. Emails from my mother. One after another. Long paragraphs this time. She wrote about sacrifices. About how hard parenting was. About how she never meant to hurt me. About how holding on to the past wasn't healthy. She didn't mention the documents. Not once. I replied with one sentence. "I will communicate about this in writing only." I then logged into my bank account. The familiar blue and white screen loaded slowly. I navigated to transfers. Automatic payments. There it was. The monthly support I'd set up years ago when my parents first needed a little help. Nothing dramatic. Just enough to smooth things over. To keep things quiet. I hovered over the cancel button longer than I expected. My finger shook slightly. Not fear. Something like muscle memory. The old instinct to wait. Then I clicked. A confirmation box popped up. "Are you sure?" "Yes." The screen refreshed. The line disappeared. I sat back and waited for the feeling everyone talks about. Relief. Freedom. Vindication. What I felt instead was calm. Flat. Like a room after people leave. My phone buzzed almost immediately. A text from my mother. "Did you cancel the transfer?" I didn't answer. An hour later, my father emailed. Short. Formal. "We need to resolve this like adults." And I forwarded it to a new folder and didn't reply. That afternoon, a bank notification came through. An alert that someone had tried to add my name to an application. Failed. I stared at the screen. They hadn't waited. They'd tried to move forward without me anyway. I saved the notification. Screenshot. Habit. When I got home from work, my parents' car was parked across the street from my house. My stomach tightened. They were sitting inside, engine running, waiting. I didn't get out of the car right away. My parents' sedan idled across the street, exhaust puffing in uneven bursts. My mother sat in the passenger seat, hands folded in her lap. My father stared straight ahead, both hands on the wheel. They hadn't seen me yet. I stayed still and watched. This was how they liked things. Showing up without asking. Making presence feel like urgency. I finally opened my door. The sound was louder than I meant it to be. My father's head turned immediately. The engine cut. They both got out at the same time. "Emily," my mother said, already walking toward me. We just wanted to talk. I stopped a few steps from my front door. This isn't a good time, I said. My father glanced at the house, then back at me. You didn't call, I said. My mother pressed her lips together. Her eyes flicked toward the folder strap visible inside my bag. She'd noticed it at dinner, too. We're worried, she said. You're making this bigger than it needs to be. I unlocked my door and stepped inside without answering. After a second, they followed. Habit again. Their assumption that they were allowed. They stood in the entryway. My mother reached out and touched the picture frame on the wall. A reflex, claiming space. My father cleared his throat. We spoke to the bank. I waited. They said without your cooperation, things will be difficult, he continued. I nodded once. My mother's voice wavered. Why are you doing this to us? I set my bag on the chair and took out the folder. I didn't open it. I just held it. I'm not doing anything to you, I said. I'm stopping. My father's jaw tightened. This is punishment. No, I said. It's a boundary, he scoffed. You've been reading too much online. I felt something sharp then. Not anger, clarity. I'm not discussing this in person anymore, I said. I told you that. It's not May. My mother stepped closer. Please. We're your parents. I looked at her hands, the same ones that held cupcakes, that smoothed streamers. I know, I said. That's why this matters. There was a long silence, the kind that makes people reach for the wrong thing. My father said, Jason thinks you're overreacting. I smiled slightly. It surprised me too. Jason wasn't there, I said. I was. My mother's eyes filled again, slower this time. We did our best, she whispered. I believe you believe that, I said. I opened the door and held it. They hesitated. My father looked like he might argue. My mother picked up her purse instead. As they walked out, my father turned back. You'll regret this, he said, not loud, certain. I didn't answer. After they left, the house felt smaller. I locked the door and leaned my forehead against it for a second. My knee ached, steady, familiar. That night, I organized the folder one last time. Not because I needed to. Because I wanted to finish something cleanly. I scanned the documents and saved them to a secure drive, labeled, dated. Then I slid the folder into a box on the top shelf of my closet. Out of reach, not destroyed, just done. My phone buzzed once more before bed. A group text. My mother, my father, Jason. My mother wrote, We're telling the family what you're doing. I set the phone face down. In the morning, the first message came in from my aunt. Call me. It is Bakhtin Everwas. My aunt didn't wait for me to call. She rang while I was pouring coffee, the mug already too full, a thin line spilling onto the counter. I let it overflow for a second before setting the pot down. Old habits die loud. Emily, she said, no greeting. What is going on? I leaned my hip against the counter and wiped up the spill with a paper towel. Slow. Deliberate. I'm not co-signing a loan, I said. And I stopped sending money. There was a sharp inhale on the other end. That's not what your mother said. Of course it wasn't. She said, you're holding something over their heads, my aunt continued. That you brought up some childhood thing to embarrass them. I pictured the restaurant again. The plates. The way my mother's eyes had darted to other tables. I didn't bring it up, I said. They asked for help. My aunt paused. Your father is under a lot of stress. I know, I said. So was I. Silence stretched. I could hear her shifting the phone, maybe pacing. Why didn't you tell anyone before? She asked. I looked down at my knee, bent slightly wrong as always when I stood too long. No one asked, I said. She didn't argue with that. That surprised me. I just want to understand, she said finally. I can send you the documents, I said. If you want. Another pause. That won't be necessary, she said. I'll talk to your mother. When we hung up, my hands were shaking. Not badly. Enough to notice. The messages kept coming over the next 2 days. Cousins, an uncle, a family friend I hadn't spoken to in years. Concern dressed up as confusion. I answered exactly 2 of them. The same way. I'm not discussing this verbally. I have documentation if needed. Most didn't reply after that. Jason tried again that night. A voicemail this time. "You're really going to let them lose the house?" he said. "Because of a grudge?" I deleted it without listening to the end. On Friday, my mother emailed me an invitation. Dinner. Same restaurant. Sunday evening. Family only. The phrasing was careful, neutral, like nothing had happened. I stared at the screen for a long time. My knee throbbed in time with the hum of the refrigerator. I replied with one word, yes. Sunday came faster than I expected. The restaurant was louder than usual. A game on the TVs. Laughter spilling from the bar area. The hostess led us to the same back room. This time, more chairs were filled. My aunt, an uncle, 2 cousins, my parents at the center. Jason already seated, jaw tight. Conversations stalled when I walked in. Not completely, just enough. I took the empty seat at the end of the table, closest to the exit. Menus were picked up and set down, drinks ordered. No one mentioned why we were there. My mother reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "We're glad you came," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. I pulled my hand back gently. Halfway through the meal, my father cleared his throat. "We wanted to clear up some misunderstandings," he said. Eyes shifted toward me, then away, then back. Jason leaned forward. "Emily's upset about something from when we were kids." I felt the folder's weight in my bag at my feet. Solid, unmoved. I didn't speak yet. My father continued. A couple of heads nodded. Automatically, I reached down and slid the folder onto my lap. I didn't open it. "Can I say something?" I asked. The table went quiet. I stood slowly. My knee protested. I ignored it. "I was injured when I was 8, I said. "I asked to go to the hospital." "I didn't go." My mother opened her mouth. I held up a hand. "Not dramatic, just enough." "I'm not asking for an apology," I said. "I'm explaining why I won't be taking on your debt." My aunt frowned. "Debt?" My father's face tightened. "This isn't the place," he said. "It is," I said. "Because you made it public." I opened the folder and placed the first page on the table. Then the second. Paper against wood. Quiet. Undeniable. My mother stared. My aunt leaned in. My uncle adjusted his glasses. Jason pushed back his chair. "This is ridiculous," he said. "You're doing this on purpose." I looked at him. "Yes," I said. "I am." No one spoke for a moment. The server hovered at the doorway, sensing something wrong. My father finally said, "This proves nothing." I slid the insurance denial letter forward. "It proves enough," I said. My aunt's voice was soft when she spoke. "Linda," she said, "why didn't you take her back?" My mother didn't answer. Jason stood abruptly. "I'm not staying for this." He left. Again. The room felt heavier after that. Like the air had decided to sit down too. I closed the folder and picked it up. "I won't discuss this further," I said. "I won't help financially, and I won't be the point person anymore." My father looked around the table, then back at me. "You're choosing this," he said. "Yes," I said. "I am." I paid for my drink at the bar and walked out alone. As I reached my car, my phone buzzed. A notification from my bank. Account alert. The alert came through before I started the car. I sat there with the door open, one foot on the pavement, phone glowing in my hand. Attempted credit inquiry blocked. I didn't need to open the details to know what it was. I already knew the shape of it, the timing, the desperation that follows being told no in a room full of witnesses. I closed the car door and drove home slowly, like there was nowhere I needed to be urgently. My knee pulsed with each press of the brake. I adjusted the seat slightly, an inch back, the way I always do when it starts acting up. At home, I kicked my shoes off by the door and went straight to the kitchen. I didn't turn on any lights. The street lamp outside threw a soft stripe across the counter. I opened my laptop and logged into my bank account again. Everything was exactly where it should be. No new transfers. No pending requests. Clean. An email came in while I was looking at the screen. From my father. Subject line: "We need to fix this." I didn't open it right away. Instead, I poured myself a glass of water and drank it standing up, one hand braced on the counter. My knee had stiffened during the drive. I waited for it to ease before moving again. When I did open the email, it was longer than I expected. He wrote about embarrassment, about family reputation, about how airing private matters was hurtful and unnecessary. He wrote, "You put us in an impossible position." I read that line twice. I replied with 3 sentences. "I won't discuss this verbally. I won't co-sign or take on debt. Please direct any necessary communication in writing." 18. I didn't add anything else. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. I let it ring. A voicemail followed. Then another. I didn't listen to either. The next morning, a certified envelope was taped to my front door. That stopped me. I stood there in my work clothes, bag slipping off my shoulder, staring at my name printed cleanly on the label. My parents' return address in the corner. I peeled the tape off carefully and took it inside. It wasn't legal paperwork, not exactly. It was a letter. Typed. Formal. Cold. They were asking me to reconsider. To attend mediation. To help restructure things for everyone's benefit. Attached was a proposed plan. My name listed as a guarantor. Again, I laughed out loud once. Just a short sound. It surprised me. I scanned the pages and saved them to the same secure drive as everything else. Then I drafted a response. I decline. Do not list my name on any applications. Further attempts will be documented. And I printed it, signed it, and sent it certified back. At work, I couldn't focus. Every denial code on my screen looked familiar. Every case felt personal in a way it normally doesn't. During lunch, my aunt texted. "I saw the papers," she wrote. "Your mother is upset." I typed back. "I understand. This is still my decision." She didn't reply. That afternoon, my brother showed up at my office. I didn't see him until he was standing in the doorway of my cubicle, arms crossed, eyes scanning the space like it offended him. "You really did it," he said. I stood slowly. My knee complained. I ignored it. "You can't be here," I said. He scoffed. "You think you're so righteous." "I think I'm done," I said. He leaned in closer. "They're panicking." "I know," I said. "You don't care," he said. I looked at him. Really looked. "I cared for a long time," I said. "You just didn't notice." A coworker cleared her throat a few cubicles over. Jason stepped back, muttering something under his breath. As he walked away, he turned once more. "This isn't over," he said. I sat back down, heart pounding harder than I expected. When I got home that night, my phone buzzed with a new message from an unknown number. It was a screenshot. A group chat. Family members. My name, circled. The message under it read, "She's refusing to help. We don't know what to do." Minus. I set the phone face down and didn't pick it up again. Because, for the first time, it really wasn't my problem anymore. The silence after that lasted 3 days. No calls, no emails, no messages routed through relatives. It felt artificial, like the calm after a storm when everything is still too neat. On the 4th day, the first consequence arrived. A letter from the bank, not addressed to me, but forwarded. My mother had scanned it and sent it as an attachment with no message. Just the document. Application denied. I opened it at my desk during lunch. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Someone reheated soup in the break room. Normal life kept moving. The denial cited insufficient guarantor support. I closed the file and didn't respond. An hour later, my phone rang. My mother. I let it go to voicemail. Her message was quieter than usual. No crying. No accusations. "Emily," she said. "Your father is talking about selling the house." Eingois. I pictured it immediately. The driveway. The mailbox I used to check every afternoon. The front step where I'd sat waiting for rides I wasn't sure would come. She continued. Jason can't help. We don't know what else to do. She paused, then added, please. That word had carried a lot of weight in our family. It used to mean urgency, obligation, a test. Now it just meant discomfort. I didn't call back. That evening, my aunt stopped by unannounced. I saw her car through the window and felt a flicker of irritation. Not anger, fatigue. I opened the door anyway. She stood there holding a grocery bag. An excuse. I was in the neighborhood, she said. I stepped aside and let her in. We sat at the kitchen table. She placed the bag between us and slid out a loaf of bread like it mattered. I saw the paperwork, she said. All of it. I waited. I don't think your parents handled things well, she continued carefully. But I do think this has gone far enough. Enough for who? I asked. She frowned. For the family. I leaned back in my chair. My knee stretched, protested, then settled. I'm not asking them to relive it, I said. I'm asking them not to make it my problem again. She sighed. They're scared. So was I said. She looked at me then. Really looked. Not the version she remembered from holidays. You're different, she said. I had to be, I said. She stayed another 10 minutes. We talked about neutral things, weather, work, nothing that mattered. When she left, she hugged me longer than usual. I hope you know what you're doing, she said. I do, I said. The next morning, a for sale sign appeared in front of my parents' house. A neighbor texted me a photo. No commentary, just the image. I stared at it longer than I should have. Later that day, Jason emailed me. Subject line, last chance. The message was short. If you help now, they'll forget all this. If you don't expect anything from us ever again. I read it twice, once for content, once for tone. Then I archived it. At work, my supervisor asked if everything was okay. Apparently, Jason's visit had been noticed. I said yes. Because it was. That night, I took the folder out of the closet again. Just once. I opened it on the bed and flipped through the pages slowly. Not to check facts. To check myself. Nothing had changed. I put the folder back and turned off the light. As I lay there, my phone buzzed with a notification from a local real estate site. New listing. My parents' address. The house went under contract in 11 days. I knew because my aunt texted me the update like a weather report. Short, factual, no opinion attached. Under contract. I stared at the words while standing in the grocery store checkout line, my basket half full of things I didn't really need. The cashier scanned items slowly. Someone behind me sighed. I nodded to myself once, like I'd expected it all along. That night, my parents finally broke the silence together. They didn't call. They emailed. Joint account. Shared voice. Careful language. They wrote about downsizing, about stress, about how selling the house was harder than they thought it would be. They wrote, "We hope you understand this wasn't what we wanted." I read the email twice, then once more, looking for anything I might have missed. They never asked how my knee was. They never mentioned the paperwork. They never acknowledged the choice they'd made years ago, or the way it echoed now. I didn't reply. A week later, Jason showed up again, this time at my door. I saw him through the peephole, hands shoved into his jacket pockets, jaw tight. I didn't open it right away. When I did, I stayed in the doorway. "What do you want?" I asked. He exhaled sharply. "They're moving into my place." That stopped me. "Temporarily," he added quickly. "Until things settle." I pictured his apartment. Small, loud, chaotic. I wondered how long temporary would last. "They're blaming you," he said, "for everything." I nodded. "I know. You could fix this," he said. Still, I shook my head. "No." His face hardened. "You're really okay with this?" I looked at him, then past him, at the quiet street. "I'm okay with not lying anymore," I said. He laughed bitterly. "You think you're some kind of hero. I think I'm tired," I said. He stepped back. Don't call when you need something. I won't, I said. He stood there another second, like he might say more. Then he turned and left. Inside, my knee gave out slightly when I stepped away from the door. I caught myself on the wall and waited for the ache to pass. At work the next day, an internal audit flagged an old account. Mine. Not new information. Just the systems cycling through history, surfacing something long closed. I stared at the screen and felt a strange sense of completion. Like the loop had finally closed. I printed the audit summary and added it to the digital folder. Not because I needed proof anymore, because I like clean endings. That evening, my mother sent one last message. We're packing today. I found your old bike helmet. I didn't answer. I went for a walk instead. Slow, careful. My knee complained but held. As I passed the urgent care clinic near my apartment, I paused. The sign glowed softly in the dusk. People came and went through the automatic doors, holding papers, holding ice packs, holding hands. I stood there for a moment longer than necessary. Then I kept walking. The cutoff didn't feel dramatic. It happened on a Tuesday afternoon while I was waiting for a document to load at work. The progress bar moved slowly. I tapped my pen against the desk and checked my phone without thinking. 3 missed calls. My mother, my father, Jason. I didn't listen to the voicemails. Instead, I opened my notes app and typed a short message. Neutral. Clear. I will not provide financial support or act as a contact point. Please do not come to my workplace or home. Any further communication must be in writing. I sent it to all 3. One message, no variations. Then I turned my phone face down and went back to work. That was it. No announcement, no confrontation, just a line drawn where I was standing. The response was immediate. Jason replied first. So that's it? I didn't answer. My father sent an email 30 minutes later. Longer this time. He wrote about disappointment, about how families don't abandon each other, about how I was choosing isolation. I archived it. My mother didn't write at all. That night, I cooked dinner for one. Pasta, jarred sauce. I ate standing at the counter, scrolling through nothing in particular. My knee throbbed faintly, like it always does when I'm on my feet too long. Afterward, I logged into my accounts one more time. Bank, credit monitoring, insurance. Everything was locked, frozen where it needed to be. Alerts on. I slept deeply for the first time in weeks. 2 days later, a letter arrived from a forwarding address I didn't recognize. Inside was a change of address notice, typed. Impersonal. My parents were officially living with Jason. I placed the letter in the recycling without rereading it. At work, things settled. No more surprise visits. No more phone calls vibrating through meetings. My supervisor checked in once, quietly, and I thanked her for handling it when Jason had shown up. She nodded. Didn't ask questions. On Friday evening, my aunt called again. I just wanted you to know, she said. They're adjusting. Okay, I said. They still don't understand, she added. I know, I said. She hesitated. Do you? Yes, I said. I do. After we hung up, I went into the closet and took the folder down from the shelf. I didn't open it this time. I held it for a moment, felt the weight of it. Then I put it back and closed the door. That weekend, I drove past the hospital where I work audits occasionally. Not the urgent care from my childhood, a different building. Same smell when the automatic doors opened. I watched a mother kneel in front of a little girl with a scraped knee. The girl was crying hard, hiccuping breaths. The mother listened, took her seriously, led her inside without hesitation. I stood there longer than necessary. Then I got back in my car. My phone buzzed once as I pulled away. A message preview from Jason. Mom's asking about you. I didn't open it. I didn't hear from my parents directly after that. What I heard instead came sideways. Through other people. Through tone changes. Through the careful way my name was avoided in conversations that used to include it. My aunt called one afternoon and talked for 10 minutes before mentioning them at all. That was new. They're settled at Jason's. she said finally. It's crowded. I pictured it without effort. Boxes stacked where furniture should be. Tension disguised as jokes. The way my brother fills space when he's uncomfortable. They're having trouble adjusting, she added. I figured, I said. She waited for more. I didn't give it. They're telling people you've gone no contact, she said. I paused. Have I? She sighed. You've made yourself unavailable. Obedit. I've made myself clear, I said. That night, Jason texted again. Dad's health isn't great. I stared at the message. Just long enough to notice the phrasing. Vague. No details. No specifics. A hook, I replied once. If there's medical information to share, send it in writing. He didn't respond. 2 days later, a group email came through. My parents, Jason. Me. Attached were discharge instructions from a recent ER visit. Blood pressure. Stress-related. Follow-up recommended. No emergency. No crisis. Just another situation waiting for someone to take over. My mother wrote, We thought you should know. I read the attachment carefully. Dates. Notes. Recommendations. Then I replied, I've reviewed this. Please follow the discharge instructions and your provider's guidance. Nothing else. Jason called immediately. I didn't answer. The voicemail he left was angry. So now you're a doctor too? He said. You really don't care. I deleted it. That weekend, I ran into my parents unexpectedly. I was at the pharmacy, waiting for a prescription refill, leaning against the counter because my knee had started to ache. I heard my name before I saw them. My mother froze when she noticed me. My father stopped mid-sentence. For a second, no one moved. Emily? My mother said softly. Hi, I said. They looked older up close, smaller somehow. My father's jacket hung loose at the shoulders. My mother's hair wasn't done the way it used to be. We didn't know you'd be here, my father said. I live nearby, I said. My mother stepped closer. We miss you. I felt the familiar pull, the old reflex to smooth things over, to make space. I know, I said. That doesn't change my decision. Her eyes filled, not theatrically, just tired. We never meant to hurt you, she said. I nodded once. I believe that. My prescription was called. I stepped away from the counter and took the bag. As I turned to leave, my father said, You don't have to be so cold. I stopped. I'm not cold, I said. I'm consistent. They didn't follow me out. In the car, my knee finally gave in, a sharp jolt that made me gasp. I sat there until it eased, breathing through it, waiting. That pain had always come and gone, ignored when inconvenient, lived with when necessary. I drove home slowly. When I got there, my phone buzzed with a new email from Jason. Subject line. We need to talk like adults. I didn't open it. I didn't open Jason's email. I left it sitting there, bolded, unread, while I went about my day. Coffee. Emails from work. A load of laundry I forgot to move to the dryer until it smelled faintly damp. Life without crisis feels strange when you're not used to it. Quiet doesn't rush in all at once. It arrives in small, almost disappointing pieces. A week passed. Then another. The family chatter faded. No new messages routed through cousins. No surprise phone calls. Even my aunt stopped checking in as often. When she did, she talked about her garden. Her tomatoes weren't doing well this year. At work, I closed an audit that had been sitting open for months. I sent the final report and watched the status flip to completed. Green check mark. Done. That afternoon, I got a notification from my credit monitoring service. Monthly summary. No changes. I stared at the screen longer than necessary. This was what stability looked like. Boring, uneventful, earned. On a Thursday evening, my mother emailed me. No subject line. Just 3 sentences. We moved the last of our things today. Jason says you're doing well. I hope you are. I read it once. Then again. I replied with one line. I am. She didn't write back. A few days later, I ran into a neighbor who used to live down the street from my parents. She recognized me instantly, asked how everyone was doing. "They sold the house," she said, shaking her head. I couldn't believe it. "Things change," I said. She nodded, then lowered her voice. "Your brother seems stressed." I smiled politely. "I imagine." That night, I went for a drive without a destination. Windows down, radio low. My knee felt good for once, loose, cooperative. I didn't realize where I was headed until I saw the sign. Urgent care. Not the one from my childhood. A newer building. Glass front. Bright lights. Automatic doors opening and closing with soft certainty. I pulled into the parking lot and sat there for a moment. A man helped an older woman out of the passenger seat. A teenage boy paced while looking at his phone. A mother held a crying child against her shoulder, murmuring something I couldn't hear. No one was waiting. No one was told to sit down and be quiet because something else mattered more. I stayed there until the ache in my knee reminded me I'd been still too long. On the drive home, my phone buzzed. A message from Jason. Not an email this time. A text. "They're asking about the paperwork again." I didn't feel the old jolt of panic. No rush of obligation. Just information. I typed back carefully. "I've already shared everything relevant. I won't revisit this." 3 dots appeared, disappeared. Then, nothing. That was the last time he reached out. Weeks went by. Then, months. My parents sent a holiday card. Generic, snowy house. No handwritten note, just names printed inside. I put it on the fridge for a day, then recycled it. I started physical therapy for my knee. Nothing dramatic, strengthening, mobility, learning which movements helped and which didn't. The therapist asked how long it had been bothering me. "A long time," I said. She nodded. "You don't have to live with pain just because you're used to it." That landed harder than I expected. One evening, as I was filing paperwork for my own records, I came across the secure folder again. Digital this time. Clean. Organized. I hovered over it, then closed it without opening anything. Some proof only matters until you're done needing it. The last update I heard about my parents came from my aunt, months later. "They're still with Jason," she said. "It's not easy." "I'm sorry to hear that," I said, and I meant it. "But," she added slowly, "they're managing." Actually read as. I hung up and sat with that. Managing. That had been my job for most of my life. Quietly, efficiently, at my own expense. Now it wasn't. That night, I drove past the hospital again. Same one. Same glow. Same steady doors opening for whoever needed them. I didn't stop this time.